high. So Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake just got a bunch of details and they sound pretty good except for one thing, and it's making fans really upset. So let's get right into it. If you're new here and you love all things RPGs, Bethesda games, Assassin's Creed, whatever, consider leaving a like at the least and a sub at the most. Thank you so much. Let's go. This information comes from Twitter user The Hidden One, who got their information from apparently a French journalist on their YouTube channel, and they have inside information about the upcoming remake of Black Flag. They say the remake removes the modern day and replaces it with more content in Edward's pirate era, adding a few extra hours compared to the original. Now, personally, I think this is a really great step in the right direction, considering how the modern day perspective has been slowly receding due to fan feedback over the years about how the modern day is intruding on the narrative and a separate timeline experience of the actual gameplay when we are, supposed to be playing as an assassin. And having around 40 hours in Assassin's Creed Shadows myself, I have yet to see one modern day sequence, and it helps so much to be completely immersed in feudal Japan rather than jumping around from modern day to another era. Adding more content with Edward would be so great to see, considering the jumping back to the Abstergo office in the original Black Flag became very jarring at times and sort of took you out of the narrative, making it a little difficult to follow the story sometimes. They've also stated that they are expected to include cut content from the original, like parts of Mary Reed's storyline that were dropped back in 2013. Personally, I thought that we had plenty of time with James Kidd or Mary Reed, whatever you want to call her, but any cut content is good content in my eyes. Now, this is where the controversy comes in. Gameplay will shift closer to the RPG style of newer Assassin's Creed games. Loot and gear stats for Edward, inventory systems, combat leans towards the RPG style rather than the choreographed combat of the original. Now, for years and years, so many fans of the franchise have been upset about the new direction with the RPG elements and really want a remake that stays true to the original combat style. But, this hasn't stopped the sales from climbing in the Assassin's Creed franchise, from Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, and now Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is selling incredibly well. Even in the original Black Flag game and earlier Assassin's Creed games, we have always had stats on our clothing, boosting our armor, weapons with different attack levels, guns with different reload speeds, and so on. But the full-on leveling system and scaling is something that people still to this day have an issue with. Even games like Ghost Recon Breakpoint had a huge amount of backlash when they introduced RPG elements in that game, similar to how they had in The Division, which they later patched out completely and added an immersion mode that harkens back to the more grounded nature of that particular IP. And one of the best feelings that you get out of the old school Assassin's Creed games is the power fantasy you get during combat due to the flashy animations that played out when pulling off different moves on multiple enemies. So my only hope is that there are damage scaling options to allow combat to feel more visceral, like the original Assassin's Creed games, where maybe you take a good bit of damage but also deal a good bit of damage, making it not feel so spongy and, as many people would say, more of an RPG than an Assassin's Creed game. But let me know how you feel about this particular bit of info in the comments. No loading screens when moving between ship and land. Again, it seems like they are leaning more into the immersion and seamless nature of the gameplay loop, and I think that this is a great sign. If I remember correctly, there was a loading screen whenever you were docking at a port with your ship, albeit a very short one, but it's so good to see that they are really trimming the fat and allowing the simulation aspect to take over. The map is not bigger, but the islands will be filled with more activities and side content. One of my favorite things to do in Assassin's Creed Black Flag was traveling to islands looking for treasure, hunting rare game, and so on, and it's really good to hear that they are adding more to the already existing blueprint of the open world design rather than changing it too much. There were a lot of great locations with not a lot in them, so here's hoping that they add more treasures and some of the classic activities that we grew to love playing the old school Assassin's Creed games. It's not on the same big budget remake remake level as Resident Evil 2 or Silent Hill 2, but more of a faithful reimagining with updates. This one is a bit strange to me because after the comments about it being more of an RPG, it's sort of contradictory in my opinion to not call it a big budget remake, but also fundamentally changing combat at its core. The massive leap that we have in games like Resident Evil 2 Remake is massive only because of how much time has passed between those two games, graphically speaking. Assassin's Creed Black Flag right now still holds up pretty well, but I would love to see more of a graphical overhaul like we just saw with Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake. It stays true to all the animations, but overall there are things to make it look a bit more modern, so this is good news. They will be using Ubisoft's new Anvil pipeline engine, the same as Assassin's Creed Shadows, so this should come as no surprise as this is the engine that has been used for a good while now, and it seems that Ubisoft developers are much more familiar with using the Anvil engine to make Assassin's Creed games rather than switching it to something like the Snowdrop engine from The Division, even though both engines look stunning. They are reusing some of the assets from Skull and Bones to cut costs, but it won't be obvious to players. Now, as many of you might know, Skull and Bones was originally a Black Flag spin-off with multiplayer, and it spiraled completely out of control, and it is what it is now. So this is great news to see that they are going to be using some of the assets from that game, as honestly Skull and Bones visually looks really great, but it has major issues at its core, so what better way to save money than to take some of the great looking assets from Skull and Bones and add them to the remake. They say that the release window is currently targeted for early 2026, likely March, though some sources think that it could slip into late 2026. So those are some of the details that just came out about Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake. How mad are you about the RPG stuff? Please tell me. But let me know what you guys think about all these details down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like at the least and a sub at the most, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.